Welcome back to another episode of the Buffalo Happy Hour. Mike, what's going on, man?
Derek, today's been a day. So I'm excited to sit down and decompress and talk and do podcast things because it's been, 7 hours since we last recorded, so it feels like forever. But we'll start with introductions for today's special interview, and then we'll dive right into all things that encompass your life and your brain power because I, for one, have a lot of questions. So you want to introduce yourself to our fans, listeners, subscribers, and Patreons?
Yeah, let's do this. So I'm Dan Abatoy, the founder of the Food Court, and I guess I would call myself a serial entrepreneur. Former med school dropout turned serial entrepreneur.
So, how? Like, what did you?
Let's start with med school.
Yeah, that's what I was going to get at. Like, what decisions did you have to make to be like, I'm done with this?
Yeah. So that's a real deep question. Right off the bat. Here we go. Basically, it was one, to get to medical school. It takes a lot of time, effort, energy. Retook a lot of classes I didn't want to take. Spent a lot of money doing that. And so to get to the point where I chose to leave really came from this feeling that I was no longer in love with medicine.
Sure.
Yeah. So, it got to the point where I didn't feel like I was going to be coming out and being the doctor that I always imagined I would be. And I just thought to myself, can I live with myself if I can't, achieve and turn into the best person that I set myself out to be? And so, it's kind of like was in my gut. There was just something there that said something's not right. Ultimately made the decision that I was gonna drop out and leave.
Where were you attending college?
So I went to med school in Grenada. So that's it's Caribbean Medical School.
What?
Grenada, yeah.
That's a super, super short drive.
Yeah. It gets even shorter when you have to pack your whole life up into 2 50-pound suitcases. Yeah.
That's wild. When you and I first met, we right away hit it off talking about all things business. And then when Gina told me that you were in med school, I'm like, what? Because I've only known you as an entrepreneur because you've been doing stuff since you've left. Like, you left med school and you're like, I have to figure out, because I want to work for myself, how do I do this? So right after med school, when you left, what was your first endeavor? Because it wasn't the food court.
No. The food court is...
First of all, can we tell people what the food court is?
Sure,
because we're not talking about like the Galleria Mall and the Japanese foods there. Like, you're talking something else.
Yes. We should probably dive into that real quick. Yeah, so the food court, I like to describe it as it's Tinder for foodies. So, it's to help you make that decision of what do you want to eat when, you and your significant other are, trying to figure out what you're going to have for dinner. Instead of opening, 30 different menus and trying to make that decision, we just show you the food in a random selection. Just like Tinder, gives you the ability to swipe left and right. So that's the food court. But the concept, the name for that kind of came from the idea going back to, when we were younger, you'd go to the mall with your buddies, and everybody would finally get hungry, and you'd be like, oh, what do you want to eat? And everybody's like, let's go to the food court, right? Because you can look around and see every different option that's available,
sure,
really quickly. So it's funny that you say it's not like the food, but in the back of my mind, it's kind of like the food court from the mall.
Yeah, it's the concept, because you go to any place and you can see pictures of the food on their menu, and you can check out all the places within that food court, which is essentially what you want to do, which we're going to dive so deep into this, because it's funny that we bring you on today, because as I was scrolling this morning before Facebook and Instagram shut down, I was scrolling through and I saw this meme that said, wouldn't it be nice if we had like a Tinder for food? And I'm like, I just want to post a link to this interview that's not live yet, because I know this is exactly what you're doing. So we'll dive very far into that. But going back, what was your first thing out of med school when you started?
Yeah, so the first thing, Emily and I, that's my wife, we started Teach Lifestyle, which was a subscription box that was geared for teachers. So we decided we wanted to create something that teachers could use both inside and outside the classroom and have it be an affordable box, right? So you can get things that, were higher and better quality than the Target dollar store bin. and be something that teachers, would love to get every other month. So that was the first endeavor. And really that was kind of me testing out, can I be an entrepreneur and do I even like being an entrepreneur? Yeah.
So what was the thought process when you were doing it? Were you overwhelmed or were you like, I can totally take this?
No, I mean, it was, there was a little bit of being overwhelmed, but there was also, I did have that understanding that, I went to medical school, right? So I had to retake classes, I had to learn things, and I thought, if I can do that, I can figure out how to run a business and figure out what I need to do. And there were a lot of really good resources that I found at the time that helped, right? So it wasn't just me being like super smart at running a business or, being good at research. I went to a small business development center, reached out for help there, and they really helped. They had it was a weekend series course. Basically, it was like Business 101, like how to start and run your own business. So we covered everything every weekend. I think it was Saturdays for like the whole day, and we would cover everything from accounting, legal, finance, whatever you needed to know. And so that was how I found that first piece of information, and that really actually helped me feel. I think maybe that's why it didn't feel so overwhelming, because there were people that I had at my disposal right away that could offer help and support. But yeah.
Yeah. What is that group called? Because there's a lot of small business owners out there that feel lost. So what group can they reach out to that you did? Yeah.
So the one I did was, I can't remember exactly the name of it. It was through the Small Business Development Center.
Okay.
And it was run out of the Niagara Community College campus.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There's also another one out of Buff State as well, if anybody is not near N-Trip.
That's right, yeah. And I think they're probably, it seems like they're like the same organization.
No doubt.
And so, I think that's just where they held that weekend course thing, yeah. But yeah, I would also recommend, shout out to Buff State, graduated from there. So yeah, I would highly recommend going there as well.
It's just really neat because a lot of people don't realize it's difficult to be an entrepreneur and like take that initial step to start a business. But then once you realize how many outsources that exist with different resource opportunities, like the Small Business Development Center, they're like, hey, it's a lot at first. It's like a giant cake, but we're going to spoon feed you the steps you need. Like, have you ever done a market analysis? Have you ever sat down and developed a business plan? Do you even know like what your business would look like or what you want it to look like? Have you thought about this, and this? And then you answer the questions and they're like, dude, you're like a third of the way there. Like, it's really not that hard. Like, it's just you need to formulate what you want it to be. And that's where a lot of people flip out, like Derek and I, because we're not creative. So we never thought that this would exist. Like, the whole studio, the board, like, and then you just do it. And then you're like, well, I'll just stub my toe constantly, and then eventually it'll break off, and then I'll just waddle my way through this, and then you just all of a sudden 2 years go by, so it's no one knows.
No,
but they're like, hey, this is kind of the recipe to make a decent soup.
Exactly.
And then you drink and eat it, and I break this chair because of course we po.
Yeah.
And it's wild because you start to realize like people look up to me for almost doing nothing. And they're like, oh, you're an entrepreneur. And then they start drilling you with questions. And you're like, I don't have the answer to that question. Like, that's the point. Like, I don't have a boss. I don't have time to research it. So I do know the answer to that question. So what was that process for you with, what was your second endeavor then? And why did the first one fail?
Yeah, so the first one, it really didn't fail. It was, just something.
Oh, you sold it. That's why you got that nice hat.
Yes, that's exactly why. I sold it to my grandma. She loved it. No, so the whole point of that was to test out, do I want to be an entrepreneur? Do I like this? Can I see myself doing this, as a career going forward? And that just kind of ran its course, right? So luckily we kind of shut down right before the pandemic happened, which was beneficial in the sense that, we had some situations where a couple of teachers that we had, that were subscribed, anytime, there was some sort of issue in which there's a possibility that, their paycheck was going to get cut. Obviously, the first thing they went was,
subscriptions.
Yeah, subscriptions.
Yeah, that's what I did too.
And so we luckily got it at a really good time. but it ran its course. It answered all the questions that I needed to have answered. And it allowed me to then take a step into the next endeavor that I wanted to go into, which was called Cast Yourself. So it was so the concept was a voice social networking app. So I like to think kind of like Twitter, Twitter rooms that you can have those like voice conversations, or what's the other one? I forget what it's called.
Like the chat room thing?
Yeah.
I forgot what those are called, but yeah, it's social media where you're conversing rather than typing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And so
Discord is kind of something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of more like a community. Yeah.
It was. Well, I'm totally blanking on the. It's like a big deal too, which is.
Yeah, it is, because we worked with somebody that helped us with that.
Helped us with that.
Yeah, long story, but it was after an interview. I
Yeah,
can bring it up.
Basically, yeah, that was a really ambitious endeavor that we took on, and that started at a startup weekend, which this is another great opportunity to talk about. If you're looking to start a business, that I found out about through the Western New York startup community, which is this huge online community that has support from basically anybody who's created a startup.
Sure.
And has been both successful and unsuccessful in Western New York. And so that means even like ACV, right? One of the co-founders of ACV is Jack Greco is really big in the startup community. And so I'd gone to a startup weekend. I'd pitched this idea about, wouldn't it be cool if we could help people start their own podcast, right? Because back then it was like, all right, I want everybody to start to do a podcast, but how do you do it?
Right.
And then
if you find the answer to that, let us know, because we still don't know.
Well, I also found out, there was really no good answer even back then. So maybe it was a good thing I got out of that before I got too deep in that. But it was late on a Saturday night, and probably around midnight, and we were still working on the idea. And I don't know if it was we were just so tired, but we were like, hey, what if you could respond to a podcast with a podcast? And so, that's where this, idea of a voice social networking, app came from. And so that's, we worked on that, and I started working on that as we were working on Teach Lifestyle. So that helped make that transition. It proved, Teach Lifestyle did what it needed to do. It proved the concept that, for me internally, and then I, decided to jump into something that was, more up, in line as to, what I really wanted to do.
Which is down the tech road? Is that what you're getting at? Yeah. Did you have tech experience before this?
No, still don't.
So perfect. So what is your thought process then when you were I want to do a subscription box, I'm good with that, now I'm going to go to a social media those are two pretty different ideas. So did you do market research or something like that to figure out what was void in the area, or what was that like?
Yeah, I mean, so part of it really, and at least it's the way I do it. I know other people say it's, they'll have their own kind of method. But I like to think about something, what do I wish was around for me and my friends to use? And then I, try and, especially if I have an idea, which was, responding to a podcast with a podcast, something that I thought would help me connect with my friends better, easier and make it, more fun, right? Sure. To just interact. That's kind of how I make that decision about, what I want to do and what I'm going to build going forward. So making that jump was really just, okay, I want to do something big. Not that the subscription box wasn't big or couldn't have been big. I just thought wow, what if we could do something that changed the world, that, helped a lot of people and it was also fun to use. So that's, basically where that initial jump to tech came from.
Yeah. Not to get too meta of a question, but where did you get that thought process from? Because I feel when you're an entrepreneur, and maybe this is something that you learned along the way, but the whole objective of being a successful entrepreneur is to analyze and assess that there's a problem, and then try to create something that'll fix that problem.
Yeah.
Did you learn that from somewhere, or is that just something that's always been ingrained in you?
No, I think that's just something, that I've always really it's kind of been at the core of who I am, which is why I think I really enjoyed medicine so much, right? You have to spend a lot of time observing. Mm-hmm. And that's why, I really loved sciences when I was in school, because you're spending a lot of time observing. And from that observation, you're going to make, and this is even how science works, right? You're going to make some assumptions, and then you're going to test out those assumptions. So it's the same concept that I use within the startup, when I'm building something new, right? So I see something, I go, wow, this is at least a problem for me or a problem that I've seen for other people. And then I, will basically ask myself, okay, well, why do I think this is a problem? What kind of solutions or things exist that seem to be solutions for that don't seem to be working? Why? So that's like an internal conversation I have with myself. And then I come up with, a hypothesis, and then I just test it out. And usually I fall flat on my face, right? And that's, but eventually you reach a point where, and when I talk about falling flat on my face, you talk to people and they'll be like, oh, it's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Sure.
What's wrong with you? Or like I'll talk to people and they'll be like, wow, yeah, actually, you know what? This would really, solve a problem. And so that's, kind of how that process goes for me.
Yeah. Who do you surround yourself with to bounce these ideas off of? Is it friends, family, or is it strangers in the startup community, or all three?
Yeah, it's a little of both.
Okay.
And that's the nice thing, right? So we have the startup community has a Slack channel of, I think it's a little over 1,500 people. So it's really easy to, just type in one of the channels, like, hey, I have this idea, someone have some time to talk about this, or, filling out surveys. And so you can get some pretty quick information and feedback. I think like getting back to like the market analysis, one of the things that's, I have found to be really key is, when I'm thinking of it, an idea, I kind of figure out like who's my target demographic, right? Like who am I going to be, who is this solution for?
Sure.
Right. And then I kind of go to that social media platform to, where that demographic usually lives. So that might be, Reddit, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and start just kind of like poking around and talking to people. And from there, it comes down to, if they think it's a good idea, what problem would this be solving for them? How do they go about their day-to-day life in which this would or would not solve their problem?
Sure.
Yeah.
Did you have any ideas? So those are probably the three pillars, right? The subscription box, this social media platform, and then the app, or is there another one in there?
I'm trying to think.
I guess my question is how many ideas have failed for you?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say
I don't want to say failed. Didn't come to fruition. Let's say that, because none of them failed.
That's a really good question. I would say there's at least 5.
Okay.
Right. So another idea that I had that just never came to fruition, and mainly was just like a lack of pursuing it on my end, and also I wasn't sure if there'd really be a need for it, was this idea of a mobile car wash that would just come to your house.
Oh, okay.
Right. So I'd be waiting in line at Delta Sonic, and I'd be like, this line is horrible. Why is everybody doing this? So I thought, all right, how can I, take something and this thing that's really time consuming. People clearly care about their cars and they want to clean. How can we do something like that? So that was one idea that really just never took off because I didn't really delve too deep into it. So I guess that just is another one that never came to fruition.
I feel like there was another similar business model in the area that took off for like a week and then it died. I think maybe winter gets people crazy because they want to have everyone come over and do it in their winter. And we're like, oh no, I'm good.
I actually had mobile detailing.
Yeah, that
is a business model that's actually really starting to take off now. One of the conversations that we had was similar to Delta Sonic, is a car wash built into your garage.
No, that's
where
a concept.
you pull into your garage and then there's water jets that are directly hooked up to your water lines, and then it basically just sprays underneath your car. And then you can just get the salt and garbage off your car, and then
that'd be sick.
And then you can get it out. So I was trying to hypothesize how to make that work with a couple friends years ago. This is.
Are you cheating on me?
No, this is BHH, so it's before. So that whole conversation came up, and then there's a house that I saw on YouTube that had it installed in like Colorado. And it was, of course, like a $34 million house. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, so it's possible, right? So how does, Chuck with a truck make this happen in Buffalo? But it was probably, that's a good idea, but then how to actually make that a thing is a total different ballgame. And then going all the way back full circle, the app was Clubhouse.
That's it. There it is, Clubhouse.
Podcast for a podcast. So it's a social audio app.
Yes.
That's literally gigantic. But we had a brain fart because it's post a work day and we're all mentally fried, but that's fine. So yeah.
That's right. It is. So basically, that was the idea that I had was basically Clubhouse, I guess, before Clubhouse, minus the ability to execute on it like they were.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to your credit, clearly your ideas work. So when you're thinking about this next one and talking about the food court now, we talked about that you said you identified an issue where it's tough for people to agree on food items.
Yep.
So you want to dive a little bit deeper into what Clubhouse is and what it's all about?
Not Clubhouse.
Or I'm sorry, Jesus Christ, the food court. The food court is. Now you got me all confused.
So many apps we're talking about right now. Yeah. So getting at the issue that was solving, right, that I noticed. Literally just stemmed from my daily life, right? Where, I'd be like, all right, it's, well, I'm hungry. Usually Emily is like, all right, I'm hungry. And she's past the point of being hungry. She's on the verge of hangry. Mm-hmm. And it's my job to have a solution. And I just remember I was in the car the one day. I feel like this was like kind of mid-pandemic, right? Like where things had kind of opened up a little bit, but not everything was still open. And I was like, all right, well, what can we get, right? Like, we were kind of too far from home. Like, we needed some food, and we needed it kind of quick. And it just kind of hit me where I was like, wow, all these solutions out there suck. Mm-hmm. Like, they're horrible. Like, I'm about to get, like, bombarded with, like, what are we going to have? And I need to have answers. And so I thought, all right, there's got to be a better way to do this. And just have, going back to the fact that, especially you go on, like, Instagram. And that's, how I started this. I was like, all right, I'm going to go to Instagram. I remember seeing some food that I was like, oh, wow, this looks really good. Let's go get that. And I saved it, right? But I saved like 80,000 things.
Right.
And so I'm like, all right, now I got to go find this. I'm just scrolling and I can't find it. I'm scrolling. And I thought, all right, it's still got to be a better way to do this. So that's like really where that nexus, that idea came from. And also because, this happens all the time, right? You get together with a group of friends. You're like, all right, we're hungry. Where do we want to eat? Like, where are we going to go hang out? And it usually takes like quite a bit. And you'll maybe have that one friend who does all the work. And then, you get there and you're like, yo, why'd you pick this place?
Exactly.
It sucks. Yeah. And so I thought, all right, again, like even with that, there's got to be a better solution.
Yeah. Maybe it's like the old man in me, but for some reason, when I look to find food, my first thing is to go to Google Maps and type in food. And then all these red dots pop up that's like Arby's, McDonald's. I'm like, I don't want any of this type of food. Can you give me good food? And then I see a restaurant that I've never seen before. I got to click on that. The pictures are in like 480p. I can't see what that is. So this app is basically to solve that issue where you're creating an app that will be available on your phone that is a repository of all like pictures and menus of food items from different restaurants. Is that kind of what the thought is? Yeah.
So the idea is right, like as this grows, it's that, be the food app to end all food apps, right? This is going to be the one, right? Where so we eventually have everybody's menu on there. But it's also for as much as, I spent so much time in school, when it comes to food, I just absolutely hate reading, right? So I don't want to read about what something's going to be like. I want to see a picture of it.
Sure.
And so that's why we'll again, this comes down to being able to just visually and quickly say, oh man, this looks amazing and I need to have this in my life right now.
And like real pictures too, because staged pictures they do the food places too much justice or not enough. Like you go to the Chinese restaurant and that's a picture taken in 1980s that's in green and red. Yeah. And then you go to McDonald's and it's a staged picture with glue used with coloring. And it's just like, none of this is what it really is in the first place. So this is like guest submitted pictures or like restaurant submitted pictures?
Yeah. So the way it's running right now, right? So we started with a website and that was just proof of concept, right? To make sure that this was an idea that people were going to like and it wasn't just a crazy idea that was really stupid that no one wants, right? That only I want. So the website, the way it works right now is restaurants can go on there and they can add their own images. And I can also go in and add images. But with our new app that we're building as of right now, which hopefully will be released in the next couple months, we'll actually be able to have people upload their own images. So it'll be just kind of, like Instagram, which is down right now, so maybe not like that. So like that, or like, another app that I use called Untapped, which is for a craft beer, right? So similar to that, right? So you can go get in and you're going to be the one taking a picture of your food, what it looks like right in front of you, and then you can upload it. And then, and then you can share that with friends, right? So then you can tag friends in it and say, hey, because again, food it's social, right?
Yeah,
and usually you find out about something from, whether it's a friend or family member, they'd be like, hey, you got to check this place out, right? And so then you can get tagged in an image. You can share that food experience and make it a much more what I would consider digital social experience than what it is today.
Sure. Is there? Oh, go for it.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
So
been talking a lot.
Does it? When you conceptualized this idea, you went through that normal conversation with your wife where she's like, I need food now. And you're like, okay, first of all, what are you not in the mood for? I don't care. It doesn't matter. I need food. Okay, thanks for the help. Yeah. Secondly, you're internalizing your own location. So you're like, what is around this town? So like West Seneca, you're down to like 3 options.
Right.
And then if you're in Cheektowaga, you're like literally nothing but chains. And there's 1 or 3 mom and pops. If you're in Hamburg, it's like, how much money do we want to spend? Same with Orchard Park. And then you go to North Tonawanda and you're like, I don't know. I literally don't go here. So you're like, so when you develop the app, does that aspect get encompassed in the process where it'll geotag your own location? So you got to select like, only allow when I'm using this app notification drop down, and then the app will just be like, okay, numbnuts. So you are on the Grand Island Bridge, so there's nothing but seafood. And then once you get on the other side, you're going to smell trash. And then once you're through that, you can go to these 4 places. So how do you do that? Like, how does that work technology-wise? Because I'm a disaster.
Yeah, so that's a really good question for a developer, right? Like,
so you have a developer?
Yeah, so I actually have a team of developers at UB.
He's got a team.
Yeah,
wow.
I don't pay them. I'm not that successful.
It's all pro bono. It sounds like us.
It's
I got a guy.
So the way it's gonna work, from my understanding, and that's why I preface this by saying this is a great technology question.
Yeah.
So it will use the location of the restaurant and your location, and then just like Tinder, you could have set it up right. You could set it based on a radius.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So you'll be able to search it, and depending on the way that the algorithm we end up having works, it'll essentially it's going to show you things in, as you get further. In your swiping, it's going to start showing you things that get closer to the edge of that radius. So you'll see everything that's really close to you right now. And then, if you don't like any of that, it's going to then show you that next level.
Mm-hmm.
Does it give you a photo and then the photo's the main stake of it, right?
Yeah.
But then even on Tinder, there's a bio.
Yeah.
So is that bio caption the actual description of what that meal is?
Yeah. So that's the way, if you go on the website right now, that's what we have.
That's how it is? Okay.
Yeah. The way we're going to have it set up in this first version, because I'm paying a team of developers nothing to do this, so I can only have, you can do the bare minimum.
Right.
We're just going to redirect people to the restaurant's website.
Gotcha.
Right. So then you can go and see, instead of us trying to input all that information or try and scrape that information and then worry about, something being wrong, we're going to then just basically redirect people.
You built the highway.
Restaurant. Yep.
That's cool. Okay.
That's awesome. So, are you setting up preferences? Like, I want fried food today. Is that a thought of your mind too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
First of all, who has that thought?
What, did you want fried food?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's 2 o'clock in the morning after Chippewa. Yeah.
What year is it? Oh my God.
Yeah, so ultimately, each food item is going to have a tag on it, right? So pizza will be pizza, burgers, right, and everything like that. So then you'll be able to do a filter search. So you can basically say, all right, I'm in the mood right now for barbecue, and you'll only see barbecue. And then if you're like, this barbecue is horrible, I don't want any of this, and maybe I want pizza, you can go now do a filter search. And it's literally you just clicking a drop down and selecting, that option. Or you can have it be kind of a smorgasbord of everything, right? Where you don't have any filters and you're like, I literally don't know what I'm in the mood for.
Show me something that looks good.
Yeah, and just start swiping through.
Including desserts? Is there like a dessert tab?
Yeah,
Like desserts or a filter for desserts only?
Yeah, so there'll be that as well, right? We'll do that.
That'll be easy
ice
for you.
cream.
There's like three. There's like a local ice cream place, Antoinette's, and then Cheesecake Factory.
Yeah. So this is the cool thing about this. We are setting this up so that the users, right? So every person that uses this is going to be able to dictate what goes on that, right?
Sweet.
So if you're like, you know what, this box of chocolate that I can buy from
Rite Aid.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, this is the best ever. Yeah, you can put that on there. And then you might not see it, right? Like maybe we'll have that be a special like filtered search, but essentially, you can put whatever food on there that's actually food,
right.
onto that website or onto the app.
I want to like hack your account and then just update your filters where it's like pizza, give me a heart attack, and then fast breaks.
Yeah.
And then you know where they are at all times.
So that's actually an interesting point. Is there any are you being a moderator for these pictures that go up? So you'll be able to check to see if these pictures are would you be removing ones that aren't high quality, or just like if it's food, it's on there. If it's a picture of your dog, we're not putting it on there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's
basically,
a lot of work, man.
Yeah, it's going to be, but that's, when you're at this stage of the startup game, that's what equity comes in. And
right.
It's just, if you're up 80 hours a week, moderating, I kind of would chalk that up to, this looks like a problem of success at that point.
Sure, absolutely.
And then hopefully, I can start raising some money and then paying people to actually do work.
Yeah, so it's a good point too. How do apps actually end up making money?
Yeah, so it's a really good question. Because when you look at things like Twitter, for example, you might go like, oh, I don't get, like, it's free, right? So I'm not paying for it, but somebody is paying for something along the way. So there's gonna be different business models. There's, the apps that have in-app payments, right? So you'll go in there and you purchase something through the app. The app might be free. There's apps that, not so much anymore, but you remember like back in the day, it'd be like 99 cents or $4.99 or whatever. So it'd be like a pay app. And then there's like just the good old fashioned, like people buying your data, right? So when you think about Twitter, for example, they're taking a lot of data, bringing it into their system, and then they're selling that, right? For whether it's ad space, or, even to other third parties.
Sure.
And that's how Amazon essentially makes money, because they don't really make money on their products because of the amount of returns. They're making money on their cloud.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is insane for a lot of people to think about. And I get it for our viewers. Like, I just said something intelligent about tech, but that's just because I knew somebody that actually dove into the numbers about Amazon. It was like, how does Amazon make money? Because they're like business savvy. So it's crazy because even like Spotify, also no one's a sponsor, by the way. Yeah. So Spotify is the free version, or you pay $10 a month and then you eliminate ads. So you can kind of do that too, where you're like, we can get you some photos, but then we can get you some photos.
Yeah.
Like, how would that?
Or you just won't sell your data if you give us $5.
Or it's videos. It's like, check this plate up.
Yeah, so...
Check out this slice of pizza. Dude, stop shaking for a second.
It's like all the photos are live photos, only taken by Apple. So is that... Yeah, it's not necessarily applicable, but it could be, right? I mean, there's options within this platform that it's kind of open for you, which is really cool, especially now on the ground floor.
Yeah. So,
is it all Buffalo based, like your development team, or are you talking to people out there in California drinking the fine wines on the coast?
No. So basically everything right now is Buffalo based, right? Mm-hmm. So the developers, while they're not from Buffalo, they're students at the University of Buffalo.
Okay.
And they're doing that through their CSE 611 class, right? So
the what?
Computer science.
Computer science.
Yeah. See, there we go. Nice.
So it's one of their courses. So they are receiving some sort of compensation for this. This is not,
611?
Yeah.
So how did you do that?
Hold on. Isn't 611 like grad school?
I mean, it's the 600 level course. You can take that really whenever, but yeah. He's up there.
Yeah, I mean, these kids they're really good.
Yeah,
they've been doing this for a while.
Our numbers were like 405. We're just like, we're getting there.
We just wanted to graduate, bro. So I forgot my question now. What was my question?
Something important.
No. I forgot it again. Nailed it. It came right back, and then it just left again.
So we are not going to be on your development team.
Yeah.
Because clearly we have like CTE, but that's fine.
What was I going to ask? It was a killer question, too. I just don't remember what it was.
The kids working on the thing?
I don't know. Just keep going to conversation.
Okay, can you turn the fan on?
I'll be out here.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, so your development team, what is their like workload per se? Are they just throwing in when they can a couple hours a week? Or is this like now you're at the point, like where...
Remembered it.
What do we got going on?
I'll write it down.
So the nice thing about this is it's a course, right? So there is oversight by the professor. And so they have a designated number of hours that they are committed to doing this per week, each student. And at the end of it, once they finish the project, they build what they're supposed to build. They basically get a grade for it. So it's kind of like an internship with the
community service aspect.
Yeah, it kind of is like community service, right? Because a lot of times when you have a startup idea, an idea is great, right? But no one cares about an idea. They want to see traction, and that's the only way someone's going to give you money for something. So really, in order to get any type of startup off the ground, and especially for Western New York, where this is in Silicon Valley, and I mean, yeah, there's money, but there's not that kind of money. There has to be some sort of resource that helps people get off the ground, right? And this is one of those. So yeah, they work on it for the semester, and I think it's about 10 hours a week each student puts into it.
Nice.
How did you get involved in that though?
Yeah, so I'm trying to remember how I initially met the professor that runs it.
Because we were joking around that we wanted an intern for the podcast, and then we did research and we're like, you literally can't, because what you're doing, what you would want the intern to do is would be solely business related, and if this is an internship, you technically have to intern them and not have them do all the work. I'm like, damn, this sucks.
And like pay them, and there's like state laws. And as soon as I sent him the NewYork.gov link, Derek's like, all right, we'll just do it. Correct. Like, we're moving on. It was a cute idea.
Yeah, I mean, so, and I know what you guys are talking about, right? So I've tried that before, where you're like, all right, let's get an intern, especially when you're building something that you believe in. It's like, great, here's some like real world experience. Let's build something cool, get it on the ground floor. But it gets really a lot of bureaucratic paperwork.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, also times changed. I mean, when we were 15, 16, all that was fine.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the only thing you couldn't do was work, like, a consecutive amount of days in a row, and, like, they could have got fined. Now it's just, like, they're going to bulldoze your business. I'm just like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Like, there's so many stipulations now compared to when we were 15, 16.
It's funny because when I was in college, I did an unpaid internship, right?
Of course,
and it was
we
like,
all did.
And it was like, oh, that's how you pay your dues, right? Get in on the ground level, show that you can work hard, right? And my first job at Roswell was because of that. But now, times have changed, and and I see both sides, right? Like, I see it from my side as the founder and the business owner, where it's like, all right, I can't afford to pay anybody. I'm not even paying myself. But at the same time, like, these students are putting in a lot of time and effort and energy into building something that is my dream. So there should be some sort of compensation.
Sure.
A high five. They're fine.
Yeah. Buy some pizza and maybe some beer, depending on.
And sign up for the app while you're in it.
Yeah.
Post a pizza on the app, though.
But yeah, so I got started. Somehow I got introduced to the professor, and there's a pitch day once at the beginning of each semester, right? So it's about like 100 students. You pitch the idea. I went a couple weeks ago, pitched the idea, and then at the end of the pitch, students come up to you, ask questions, and hopefully your project, will get selected. And so that's how I got involved with that.
Are you stressed because are you limited to a school year or a semester now, or no?
No. So, I mean, that's the nice thing about this. It's really structured to where, like, there has to be a finish line. So there are certain requirements that have to be met, and essentially, the professor helps to make sure that the students stay on track. Without something like this, you could get really stressed where, I mean, I've done that before where, one of our co-founders on Cast Yourself, is a student, but he would work on it, throughout the semester. But then when the semester was over, he had his job, right?
Yeah.
So things slowed down. But with this, we don't really have to worry about necessarily that time issue.
So what was your deadline then? I need this app up and running, or did you set like an intermittent? Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and so like that's part of the conversation before you jump in and
sure, to make sure the kids can actually do it.
Yep, and then again, like these kids are they're really talented.
Sure.
So this gives them like real world experience as to what it's like in the real world.
There's like 4 people in the world that know how to design an app, so these kids are gonna thrive after this.
Yeah, and they're really good. Like it's not even just like the back end stuff where you're talking about like
coding.
Location. Yeah. It's even like the design concepts where you're like, all right, like what is this gonna look like? And they're putting together these wireframes, and I'm like, wow, yeah, this looks really good.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
So what do you need from the community as of right now? Are we in a holding pattern until the app's developed, or can we do something in the interim?
Yeah. So you could follow our Instagram when Instagram's not broken.
Right.
Yeah. And then, go and use the website, right? Because, that the current website, and you can see the link on, we can put it in the Instagram. Well, it's there actually in the Instagram account.
We'll throw it in the link in the description below. But what is it for people that aren't going to click the link?
Yeah, it's trythefoodcourt.com.
Okay.
And
then your Instagram handle is?
It's so that was taken. So it's I think it's try_the_food_court, maybe underscore again.
Again, we'll put it in the description. Maybe underscore again. So and right now, are the only way to get things uploaded through restaurants, or you personally, or can the community still? Okay.
Yeah. So right now, the way the website is set up, it's either the restaurant uploading it, or we'll upload it. But if you want to get involved with the app itself, where I'm working on a landing page, so we're going to collect email addresses, and once that's up, again, post about it on our Instagram account. And then you just go there, put your name, put your email address, and then I'll have a list of people to, basically be the first users of this app.
Sure. I think what would be cool too is cocktails. Because cocktails are something that even Gina's like, what place has cool cocktails around? But I'm sure you get flooded with ideas. You're like, listen, I have to develop this first. Yeah. So chill out.
So and usually it's like me. Like I would be like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, this is a great idea. And I'm like, just stop. Just go to bed. Like we don't have time for this.
So how would a restaurant, same thing, reach out to you on Instagram or something if they wanted to be a part of it? Okay.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I'm so excited for this, and I'm glad that we got to have you on, because this is something that I think people conceptualize all the time on how cool of an idea this is. Like I said before, the meme that I just saw, people conceptualize this and think that it's not possible, but clearly someone's working on it, and they're trying to get it off the ground, and if you support, it'll come sooner.
Yeah. So and one of the things that I'm really big on is,
the free market and capitalism. I'm with you.
Exactly.
Okay.
Man, you like to read my mind. I love it. No, but just, it's really, getting behind it and supporting the Western New York startup community as a whole, right? And Western New York as a whole. Mainly because, it would be super great if I was, a billionaire because of this, right?
Right.
But if I'm the only one driving my Ferrari around, that sounds pretty boring to me. So at the end of the day, like, I really want this to be something that puts Buffalo and Western New York on the map from a startup perspective, so that, it's not that Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, right, is a Silicon Valley product. It's that, the food court becomes a Buffalo, Western New York product. So people can sit there and say, yeah, I had an influence in this. The world uses this app because it was developed here, it was made here, it was supported by people here, and everybody's, every restaurant owner, every foodie can sit there and say, I had some sort of say into what we built. And that's really my ultimate goal at the end of this.
It's super cheesy, so don't worry, I'll smoke myself for this. However, there has been a massive shift that's visible, specifically in the startup community, of a lot of people that are born and raised in Buffalo, so Buffalo natives that sit there and say, why not someone from Buffalo, or why not Buffalo in general? And it's to the point of like aggravation, where if you Google like who's from Buffalo that's famous, like Tim Russert, Chad Michael Murray,
you and I,
chill, and you're like, it's frustrating because there's a lot of good people in Buffalo, but it's a small market. It's not big enough. It's a small market. It's like what we can't change that. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not from Los Angeles. Like, I don't know what to tell you, so I'm just gonna work even harder now because you just pissed me off, and that's like we're super blue collar. So now you're like, I'll remember that, and then I'm gonna throw it in your face later.
Exactly.
So the startup community has grown, and then there is a massive shift in. You're gonna know the answer. It's again the end of the workday, so I'm shot mentally. What's that massive event that happens once a year for startup companies where it's like a massive award ceremony thing?
Yeah, 43 North.
43 North. So that really changed the whole startup community, but then also essentially put Buffalo on the map in a different light of like now people are coming here and they're like, oh, there's actual business investments opportunities in Buffalo. Let's look at this. Where do we go? And it's like 43 North, talk to the people on the ground. So I assume you're involved with 43 North to an extent. Whether it's networking or you're familiar with them.
Yeah.
So have you attempted to do more with them, or are you just buried?
Yeah, I mean, the goal is to, right, like one of the biggest Buffalo success stories for the startup community is ACV. And they
ACV auctions.
And they, went through the 43 North competition and won. I'm just not there yet with the food court.
Right.
I want to get to the point where we have the traction, we have numbers that back up, on large scale, like we have our first 10,000 users, right? Like we have this many restaurants using it. If we get to the point of generating income before, that process. But ultimately, yeah, like to be able to apply that competition and be a part of it would be absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I'm very excited for this. I cannot wait because the opportunities are endless. And it's just going to, as soon as it gets traction, it's just going to take off. Because there's no way somebody can look at this and say this isn't a good app.
Yeah, I like to think
it solves
so.
the biggest problem for couples. I mean, that's the biggest thing.
I know. There's restaurants named after I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Or like my dad's place. Like that's on Transit.
So are you able to, like, you and your wife or girlfriend or fiance connect, and then when you guys both swipe left on a food item, it lets you guys know? Yeah, is that what you're thinking too?
Yeah. So that's actually one of the features that it's gonna be I guess you heard it here first thing. So the way we're gonna have it set up, we're gonna have a group foodie session. So
nice.
Basically, you can invite one other person, two other people. I'm not sure if there's going to be a limit on it, but let's say a group of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're all going to go through your own foodie session. You're going to swipe. And then at the end of it, it's either going to match you on the style of food, right? Like if you're all like, all right, everybody wants barbecue or pizza or burgers, or the actual restaurant itself, right? Like if you want a burger from a restaurant and I want pizza from a restaurant, and it's the same restaurant, it's going to match us on that.
That's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's genius, man.
Yeah.
Well, now this is going to be something super millennial of me to say, but
here we go.
Are you going to, or are you thinking about having like a verified user account where someone that is maybe an Instagram influencer in the local Buffalo food scene can go on and rate theirs, or like people can follow their food journey or something like that? Is that something that's going through your mind, or are you trying to stay away from that?
So we were actually talking about doing something like that, where basically you could follow different people,
sure.
Right? At this stage, we're not going to do it just because that's
absolutely.
But in the future, right? So this is like version 1 of this like huge,
it's a beta.
huge app, right? That
absolutely,
yeah. Something like that is definitely something I've been kind of going back and forth about. In fact, I think it was last Thursday with the development team, we actually had that conversation of, are we going to put this in this version? Can we afford it, time-wise to put that in this version? So yeah, something like that, and a lot of other really cool concepts are floating through my mind for this. Yeah.
Bring Derek back down to earth and tell him we're not going to be verified.
Well, no, I'm not saying that, but it's,
I mean, I don't know.
Something, yeah, we could be if
with
he puts
video,
a cocktail section in, he could be. But like, there's, for some reason, our generation loves to be verified on everything.
Yeah.
And if you get in on the ground floor of an app, you're going to be more inclined to use it if there's this end goal of you potentially being like a verified admin of the app or something weird like that.
Yeah, we have daddy issues, Derek.
Exactly, yeah. But like, it's a cool concept for people to be able to follow certain people, because that's what people do right now on Instagram, and it should be the same thing on this.
Exactly. Yeah, and so, that's one of the the things going back to Untapped, right? Like you can follow friends and then see what they're drinking, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that again goes back to there really isn't anything that has what I consider a food social sharing aspect on the internet, right? There's nothing like that. And so something along that line would make it easy and seamless for you to share something, let's say with me, without having to pick up the phone and tell me, right? Like I can just go and see it and be like, oh, wow, Derek ate there? Like, this place must be good. I should go check it out.
Sure.
Or
I eat everything, so don't take my
Yeah, really. It's like, oh my God, he ate another garbage plate this week? Yeah, he's a disaster.
like, oh man, Derek's only eating fried food? What is going on?
Pizza for the 3rd time this week. Chill out. That's awesome. So, again, can you plug your Instagram? I know that we kind of talked about it, but just for the end of the video, can you wrap it up by saying what your Instagram handle and your website are?
Yeah.
Again?
Actually, let me just look it up real quick.
Yeah.
Good luck. It's down.
That's true.
Oh, yeah, that's very true.
I'll take a screenshot of it, though.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Just to be on the safe side.
There you go.
You always do that. But yeah, I'm pumped.
I know
for
it's
this.
try_.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So it's try_the_food_court.
Okay.
Yeah, there was no extra underscore at the end.
Okay.
Like I thought.
And then your
Boom.
website's just try the food court or try food court.
Yep, tryfoodcourt.com.
Okay.
Boom.
There you go. There you have it. This is something that you guys would clearly be able to use and try to get in on the ground floor and help this app come to life, because this is going to be amazing.
Yeah, it'll be a game changer. Thanks so much for your time, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
We'll have to do like touch bases when you guys reach milestones or something. Come back on and
Oh, I
tell us
love
about
that.
it.
Yeah, round 2 through 4.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
And then 4 through 47,000, because it's just all going to be version upgrades and everything like that.
And we're way too dumb to stop doing this. So it's fine.
Cool. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, everybody. Have a good
Thanks, man.
night. Thank
Thanks.
you.